What defines a hidden gem? Well, it's obviously a subjective term used by authors to indicate that a film or music or literature, etc., is of some historical or artistic significance, despite the fact that at the time it was released, it maybe was ignored by fans or critics. For example, I thought recent films like The Lighthouse and Mandy were pretty interesting, and since neither was a huge box office success, I can probably assume most people haven't seen them. But since they may be hidden gems to a casual film lover like me, they're probably only scratching the surface of the underground for true cinephiles. My area of expertise is the NES, and even though I'm pretty well versed in its library, I've always been hesitant to throw out the hidden gem term. For someone who vaguely remembers Mario Brothers, a game like Blaster Master may seem like a deep cut. For someone who loves Zelda, Crystalis may be a similar title they weren't aware of. The further you get into the library, the more common these games become. I spend a lot of time looking at lists, so much so that I made an entire website that compiles top 100 NES games lists into an aggregate ranking. I've read tons of hidden gems lists, and so while I do feel like I have a pretty good sense of what games people feel like are great but unknown, it's still my opinion. With all that being prefaced, I'm going to throw out a few tiers of what I believe are the different levels of hidden gems. I'm not going to go over every single game in the NES library, so if there's some specifically you want my opinion on or you just want to throw out there, put it in the comments. First, there's the common but not in everyone's nostalgic wheelhouse. Basically, these are the games just past the Castlevania, Final Fantasy, Tecmo Bowl level of titles. This includes River City Ransom, Life Force, Battletoads, Star Tropics, and more. At this point, these are pretty well known, but if I asked my sister who owned the NES with me as kids, she'd have no idea what these games are. Next, there's the inexpensive but still somewhat obscure. These are titles that you can still pick up for under $20 or so that most people didn't own growing up. These include Guardian Legend, The Clash at Demon Head, Journey to Silius, Super Dodgeball, Faxanadu, and more. These were more obscure maybe 15 years ago, but thanks to Google and YouTube, the word has gotten out. Then there's the expensive but relatively unknown. These are games that have received the hidden gem label over and over and over again. They were already uncommon and rare, but the constant "this unknown NES game is amazing" commentary has driven up the price considerably. Titles in this category include Bucky O'Hare, Metal Storm, Gun Knack, Vice Project Doom, and the game that rests above all others, Little Samson. You're dropping at least $100 for any of these, and up to $1,000 or more for Little Samson. Finally, there's the edge of greatness. There's only about 700 official titles in the NES library, and with YouTubers like me perpetually trying to out-nerd each other with spicy takes, there's multiple reviews out there for any game you can look up. This means that with so many hidden gems lists mentioning the aforementioned titles, the only way to still add your opinion to this is to reach deeper and to really stretch the idea of what constitutes a gem. This is when people start talking about games like Rockin' Cats, Nightshade, Kickle Cubicle, Monster in My Pocket, and others. I think those and many more games I'd lump in with them are great, but they're not for the uninitiated. I wouldn't recommend Wampum, for instance, to someone who'd only played the NES Classic. It's just too many quality steps away from something more known like Mega Man. But if you've grazed your way through all the obvious recommendations, you'd probably enjoy it. I say all this because I don't really know why. It was just on my mind. I don't know if people really find these kind of distinctions interesting, or if I'm just way overthinking it. This channel is all about highlighting the fringes of the NES library, and I don't want to feel like I'm retreading too many steps that others like me have already taken. That being said, there are some NES games that aren't quite bottom of the barrel obscure that I'd like to discuss, and while they're maybe not good enough to be considered hidden gems, I think I'm still going to use that term here for simplicity's sake. Since I talk about it all the time, I'm going to start with one of my favorites that stayed off of my radar for a really long time, and that is Kickmaster. So check in next Tuesday for a deeper look at this impressive action platformer. Thanks for watching.